Welcome back to the Change Physician. I am Melissa Katie, the Challenge Doctor, with my co-host, Dr. Kevin Cuccaro, here bringing you Sunday Salutations. If you don't know what the Change Physician is all about and you just happen to run into this video, you can go to thechangephysician.com and learn about us and what we're up to and join the community, whether you're a physician or a physician ally. But our Sunday Salutations is intended to say hi to everybody, to the world, and to each other, Kevin and myself. From the western coast to the central portion of the United States, at least, and tell you what's recently happened in the podcast and or maybe some favorite things of the past week from our lives or the world around us. So how are you doing there, Kevin?
I'm good. I was just thinking, man, we should do, because I'm logging in and looking and pushing stuff around on Facebook, and then it tells you little notifications or whatever. And it's one of my co-residents' birthday today, who I haven't talked to probably since residency, but Dr. Anderson, happy birthday. I hope it is wonderful for you. She was awesome. Jen Anderson. I think she was actually one of our chiefs too. Super cool person, super nice person, great person to do residency with. So I hope she has a great day.
I love the super cool persons thing. Nice to have one of those or a few of those in your life. Let's see here. I don't know any birthdays. Actually, there's a lot of April birthdays, but you know who you are because I've already said happy birthday. But happy birthday to all the April birthdays. I guess that includes me as well. And
happy birthday to myself. Oh, you know what? I'm going to be in big trouble if I don't do this, because also my mother's birthday was on Thursday. And so I've already said happy birthday to her.
Happy birthday.
And did her send her flowers. Of course, she was on a birthday trip, and so she wasn't around to get them, and I didn't know about it, so I couldn't send them on the day she was actually home. But yeah, my mom, who is super, super awesome, probably the best mother out in the world, other than my wife, who is the perfect mother for my children. So it's like I'm going to say generationally, in her generation, she's the best mother, and then in my generation, my wife is the best mother.
Oh, so, there you go. That's one way
anyway, it was happy birthday to her. She's doing awesome, and she's super cool, and I love her dearly. And yeah, I have to celebrate that.
Awesome. Well, happy birthday. Come on.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me just touch on the most recent episodes from episode 190 on April 17th, last Sunday. It was a deep dive on Kate Othis and HPA, which is Health Professionals Alliance, and she's a CEO of HPA and also the founder and president of Data DX, which is one of several things that are offered within the HPA suite of offerings. Make sure to check out the triple series of episodes that were preceding that in 187 through 189, where she talked about how she became CEO, how she helps physicians become autonomous, and what doctors should know about healthcare acquisitions, etc. I know that people have already reached out to her because of our episodes. So if you haven't heard any of those, make sure you take a listen. Especially if you're a physician that wants to remain independent or become independent, it might be good to know what's out there. So
yeah, and it's a great option for specialists. Like primary care physicians have the direct primary care option, which I still think is a fantastic option for them. And I thought about this a lot, and I struggled to figure out how do specialties actually preserve the kind of independence on that. So if you are a specialist physician and you're sort of looking at a model or at least an infrastructure and a community that can help you there, I would definitely look to HPA. I think that's a great choice. Yeah,
definitely. And they didn't pay us to say that. We just think it's an amazing opportunity and be part of a community that's predominantly owned by physicians. So
nobody pays us to say anything.
No,
we actually pay someone so that we can say stuff, because we're paying all the fees for Zoom and paying all the fees for this.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we do the work on the back end just to help share cool things. Yeah. Sometimes just us talking. We might have we think a cool thing to say, including the episode from Thursday on April 21st, the basics of travel hacking for physicians. I think Kevin kind of initiated some of that because of many of his travel hacks he's been doing. And I've traveled quite a bit, mainly internationally. But yeah, we have a few little things to offer to consider. You can get more out of your money and or your travels for future travels. So
And adds an element of gamification. I think I
Yes.
said a couple episodes or
Kevin's all
Salutations
about
back.
that.
I am, man. It for whatever reason that it really aligns with me. And it's just a fun way to kind of optimize that. And
Yeah.
then you can plan your vacations and you can think about them. And then you're actually even increasing the enjoyment that you get, because the anticipation of something, it provides almost as much pleasure as the actual event itself. And then if you frame it right, then you have those memories that provide you a retrograde experience, which allows you to optimize that. So you're hitting all three of those super big time perspectives and having a lot of fun, and you can save money. So that's cool.
I have to say, it was a lot of fun to set up a trip to Australia, New Zealand back in 2019, at the end of 2019. But yet the pandemic hit right when we're supposed to fly out. And boy, that was really hard. I just have to say, thank God for my husband to be like, are you paying attention to what's going on out there? I'm like, oh, no, our immune system will be fine. We'll get through it. And I'm like, oh boy, this looks like a bigger deal than I ever anticipated. So
you were supposed to leave in March, weren't you?
Supposed to leave March 15th.
Okay.
We canceled our trip March 13th when it was announced, like
Everything
literally
shut down.
Yeah. And we could have still flown out March 15th, Sunday. We would have been in the air when New Zealand officially and Australia officially closed their borders. Like literally, we would have been stuck there. So
yeah, that wouldn't have been fun.
No. And all the things we meant to go do were all canceled. So it was a blessing, but thank God for my husband, because I think that whole like excitement and like want it to happen, like I didn't want to let go of it, because it was just so exciting to like think about being there, because so much effort. I mean, that's a lot of fun to plan for me. I'm the planner.
Well, and that makes me kind of wonder then, did you get, what airline were you flying? Mm-hmm. And how did the credits work?
So we had Qantas, which is partnered with American Airlines.
Okay.
But we also had a separate little flight out of New Zealand, Air New Zealand, which I still have the credit for Air New Zealand, but I pretty much got my money back. The Airbnb was tough because some people, of all the Airbnbs we had set up, some people were like, sorry,
Yeah.
It's too late. But then Airbnb overrode them and made them refund us the money, which kind of felt bad for them. But I also was like, God, that was like a huge trip, a lot of expenses added up that I couldn't fathom. I would say 85 to 90% of everything we spent to go on that big trip got back to us eventually. It just took a lot of patience and time.
Yeah. And for me, I wish, and I think it's made a little bit of change, because I know their cancellation people are getting, well, they'll probably screw it up again, but I know the airlines have gotten a lot more flexible with that stuff now. Mm-hmm. And so I was supposed to go to Montreal in April, and I ended up canceling that. And then this is April 2020. And then who was I flying? I was flying United. And first they were like, well, you canceled before the official, like I canceled a couple days before they changed their policy, and they were going to have, it was all this ridiculous stuff. Yeah. And eventually what they did is they forget, we'll give you a year of credit, and blah, blah, blah. You have to use it in there. And then anyway, they extended it to December 2022. And what we ended up doing is buying my wife a ticket, because she's going to a knitting thing in the summer. But man, that stresses me out, because we lost the year before in 2019 in 2019 or 2018. We were supposed to go to Disney World when my kids were a little bit younger. Mm-hmm. And we had all lined up, with great flights, and then we had to cancel the day of, and we lost everything. Like they gave us a credit, but the change fees to use the prices of the tickets was ridiculous.
Wasn't even worth it.
Wasn't even worth it. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was just looking, because, well, there was a couple things that, I wasn't used to Southwest Airlines. I was looking, and apparently even their cheapest flight, you can use, normally it's like you can't use it as a credit if you need to reschedule, but it looked like it actually will let you. So that's bizarre, because I wasn't used to that happening with Southwest, because, you get their saver fares or whatever.
Yeah. They seem a lot better. And I wish in some ways that, that they would just be, I know they try to nickel and dime everything. And I know it's a rough industry, but man, it just make everything was so nasty about air travel. It's just turned into such a horrible thing that anything they can do to kind of make it a little bit more flexible would be so nice. It's like super stressful. I find it so stressful to buy plane tickets because then you're like, oh, once you're committed and then you're committed. And if anything comes up, you're like, well, what now? I'm screwed.
Yeah. And the insurance thing is not
scam.
Oh my God. I don't even bother. I don't bother. If you really want to get credit or money back, you just go up to the next type of seat, not the cheapest, fare. At least I'm that kind of person where I don't care if I could afford like the next seat up. I'm always wanting to get the cheapest seat so that I can use that extra money for other things on my travel. That's kind of you're only in the airplane for 15 hours, I guess, but
yeah, that's long.
Part of the time you sleep. And if you do it right, here's a hack I didn't say. So if I don't think we mentioned this, but if you are going there and you go like after kids are in school in Australia or something like that, you go like say late September or early October and you fly there, they have to keep it light when you're going to get against I had to always double check this, the jet stream or whatever. But so when you go to Australia, you can actually request, sometimes they'll lock a row for you. So you can have like 4 or 5, like 4 seats in the middle. And Corey and I will have our own row and we lay flat during the flight. When
no way.
Yes. And then
that's when it's not full though. So you're traveling like midweek and okay.
And we usually go Sunday. Okay. So we'll go Sunday, we'll end up arriving Tuesday because they're ahead. And then when we come back, it's usually sardines packed in. Mm-hmm. But if you want a super if you can just be real nice to the person checking you in and just ask them if there's any rows that you could have to yourself, they can lock the row.
I will remember that.
Because otherwise, if you do the lay flat seats or the Uber first class, like at $10,000, forget that.
Or you use points and upgrade. That's my plan.
Yeah. Well, I am all about the get the cheap seats, lock the row. Yeah. Anyway, there's an extra little tidbit for those of you wanting to do international flights. At least I don't know about all the other countries, but in that particular setting, Australia, New Zealand might be worthwhile. But anything you want to share from the past week? Or
I do. I actually was all ready because I screwed up the time.
Yesterday.
So I missed last week with you because we were actually in Portland.
Okay.
We had gone to a concert. It was actually a concert of the same artist that it was the last concert we went to before the pandemic ended. And we had a really, really great trip, but we went to Powell's. And so for those of you who don't know, Portland has Powell's Bookstore. It's one of the last largest independent bookstores in the nation.
I've been there.
And they've had some rough times. Like everybody has, and particularly with the Amazon thing. But we went there and I spent a couple hours. And so I just remembered how much I love bookstores. Mm-hmm. So I broke all my promises about not buying books. And so I bought this one there. And this one, for those of you who know and listen to our episodes when we talk about different topics, I'm really into like neuroscience and the brain and how we kind of construct our experiences and reality. But this one is different because this is a topic I haven't done a lot of work in. And it's basically talking about somatic influences on your brain development. So I think about the output of the brain, kind of constructing this stuff. This book is really focusing on the inputs and how those sensory inputs then kind of mold and shift our neural development, which I think was really interesting. And they have these examples. And we kind of learn the basics of this in medical school when people talk about congenital blindness, when they have congenital cataracts, and the danger and why you want to get those surgically corrected as fast as you can for a newborn is because if you don't correct it soon enough, then they won't develop and they won't be able to see, even if you remove the cataract later on. Mm-hmm. So they had some really interesting studies on just movement. Like I haven't even gotten into it yet, but just in the bookstore when I was reading this stuff about the experiments they did about movement and non-movement and for babies and like whether or not they're actually getting practice moving their legs and how important that is. It's like, whoa, this is super cool. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Can you raise that up higher?
Oh yeah. Perception.
That one's on the top half. Oh, higher. There we go. How our bodies shape our minds. Okay.
Yeah. And Prophet he's a an actual professor at UVA, 40-year professor. And I bring that up because a lot of these books, this guy's highly credible, but if you go and look at the reviews, there's not a lot of reviews on it. So he's not a good marketer, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of books that have been marketed really, really well.
Yeah.
Some of them are by actual experts. A lot of them aren't. So I just want to put that out there. I always look and see that. And then the other one I got was this one. And this is sort of reactionary thinking on your brain. Yeah. And I was looking at it and I didn't want to get it because remember, I'm not supposed to buy any nonfiction books this world, but he had a really great kind of simplification, like a beautiful simplification about how our brains process things really quick. Like this, how, all this complex process and we have these immediate reactions. And it brought it down to 3. So he goes, our instant hit black and white thinking, it has things like fight versus flight, right? So whether it's threat versus, something I can fight against or overcome. The other one is us versus them. So we're very quick about identifying the group that we are in and the other. And then the last one is a moral argument of right versus wrong. What is right and what is wrong? And so there's a really like 3 default positions. And I originally wasn't going to get it, but then I kept thinking about those 3 things overnight. So then I bought it because I'm like, it doesn't, even if I just got those 3 things out of it, that was worth it to me.
Cool.
And then finally, I know this is a little bit long, I got this. This is a fiction book called A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. And I used to read a crap ton of fiction growing up. Like that's all I read, predominantly science, predominantly fantasy. And then more recently, if I'm reading fiction, I have been reading a lot more science fiction. But this book was absolutely delicious. Like,
did you eat it?
I did. Oh my gosh. It was you're reading a chapter and I would just love it and have to put it down and just like, not like my complex things where I have to put it down after a couple pages and think and process. This one, I just enjoyed it so much and finished it in a couple of days. And that was me kind of trying to chew through it slowly. And then I bought the follow-up book on it. But if you like fantasy, and this one, it won't hit everybody because it's told first person. And it's basically this teenage girl in this school from hell. This wizard. Imagine Hogwarts, except you're in Hogwarts and you can never leave until you graduate. And there's basically these demon creatures that are coming out of the walls and trying to kill you. And you're like, well, why would anybody want to go in this? Because it's actually safer if you're going through adolescence, if you're a wizard, than in the outside world where the demons have because they talk about it. Like few kids on the outside died at like 1 in 5. So 95% of kids were getting killed by these demon things. And in the school, it's about 1 in 4. so the survival benefit that, we put in the school.
That's very small.
But man, this book just cracks me up. And it is so, the way it was written, it was very, so if you're like fantasy and you like first person, you kind of like Harry Potter, if you have ever read The Magicians, which had a Netflix series with it, the book was better. But it's kind of like The Magicians, but I actually enjoyed it better than I like The Magicians. It's just fun. It's like a super fun book. So it's been a very cool week, I have to say. Nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you got over the idea of buying some nonfiction, but I have to say I'm not very I'm really bad about watching or reading. I want to say reading fiction because I don't think it's a habit of mine, but I know that I can get caught up in it once I start it. It's just not something I initiate naturally. I think I'm more inclined to feel like I need to know more. So I'm always grabbing for nonfiction. And even like if I was to pick a movie or something to watch, a lot of times I'd pick either a documentary or like just this like, amazing comeback story or some almost like a real life story of drama that just
based on a real story or based on a true story.
It was true story or based on a real story, or it could even just be, it could be totally fiction. But if it's like it empowers you, like it makes you feel like you can overcome something. Those are like, heck, I mean, I guess I call myself a challenge doctor for a reason. Like everything I can slant in every direction you can think of. But I don't know. I just don't go for like all this. And it doesn't mean I don't enjoy it, because if my husband makes me watch something that I normally don't pick, I'll like enjoy it. But that's what's so crazy is our inclination to grab certain things, even though, you probably enjoy something else too.
So I used to read only fiction, predominantly fiction. And then about I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I started picking up nonfiction. And then I got into the same thing where I wasn't reading fiction. Like if I was like, I have other things I need to do. And then probably about 2 years ago, I think I just got overloaded and saturated. And I still read nonfiction, but the amount I consume as compared to what I did before is dramatic. That's like I made that rule. I was like, don't buy any more books because I have a bunch of books I want to read again. I have a bunch of stacked books I haven't read yet, or other than like 3-4 chapters, like I moving around in them there. But yeah, so but it's been a shift. I mean, literally in the last year for sure, I've kind of shifted. I've been reading more fiction, and I don't watch a ton of documentaries anymore. I'm just looking for, I think, just entertainment, and I think it's just you get these pieces and so anyway,
I don't sit and watch it much of anything anyway, but that's because I'm a doer. I like to get outside and stay active and do things, but anyway, my CEO, my chief entertainment officer, my husband, aka my husband,
he keeps looking at you.
He's always looking out for me and trying to find some stuff for us to watch. So I said that's your duties to help me find things to watch, entertainment wise. But all right, anything else?
I think that'll do it. I think we've talked about quite a bit of things.
Yeah, I was going to add something, but I'll save it for next time. I'll share my unique asparagus planting and growing and what has come of that next time. So stay tuned. It doesn't sound very exciting, but once I found out they last 10 to 30 years, it's like, oh, that's worth the effort. So anyway, all right, well, why don't you take us out?
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for today's Sunday Salutations with the Changed Physician podcast. And as always, you can join us usually Saturdays, but for the last couple of weeks, it's been on a Sunday. And want to learn more about the community, go to thechangedphysician.com. Until next time, stay well.
Take care.